Welcome to European Parliamentary Research Service podcast on enforcing consumer protection laws in the EU.
The EU has some of the strongest rules on consumer protection in the world, but sometimes it can be difficult to enforce them.
So what can you do as a European consumer if you're not getting value for money? Stay with us and get to know your rights.
Buying in the EU is one of the best guarantees that you'll get exactly what you paid for, or else you'll be entitled to compensation.
EU laws protect you from unsafe and faulty products, unfair conditions and misleading, even aggressive commercial practices. However, there's a gap between theory and practice.
In 2017, a fitness check of EU consumer laws revealed that while EU consumers do benefit from one of the highest levels of protection in the world, the patchwork of different national laws and procedures created a sort of justice gap, meaning that consumers had different rights depending on where they lived.
The scoreboard showed that 1 in 5 consumers experienced problems when buying goods and services, and a large number of them were exposed to unfair commercial practices. And while most of them did complain about it, a third decided not to, either because they thought the amount they could claim was too insignificant, or it would take too much time, or because they simply didn't know where and how to complain.
So what can European consumers do when they face such a situation?
Well, first of all, the legal guarantee forced by the EU upon sellers ensures that consumers have a right to repair, replacement, discount or reimbursement for faulty products for 2 years from delivery.
So although consumers can enforce these rights in court, most disputes over faulty products are actually solved by complaining directly to the seller, and that normally settles it.
However, should consumers decide to take the first step and go to court, the general presumption in the first 6 months is that the goods were already faulty when they were delivered to the buyer, which means the seller will need to prove that this was not the case.
But be aware, wait longer than 6 months and it will be up to you as a consumer to prove that you did receive a damaged good. Although these rules will change slightly from 2022 when new EU laws on guarantees start to apply.
The problem is, all this looks very good on paper, but in practice, consumers seeking remedies still face many barriers. For example, they hardly know their rights, and they're often afraid to go to court because they fear it'll be too costly in terms of time and money, and that's for national disputes.
Now add the distance, another language and different legal systems, and you'll see why cross-border disputes are much more complicated.
To avoid lengthy and complex court procedures, the EU and its member states ensure that consumers can also use out-of-court dispute resolution mechanisms both for domestic and cross-border disputes concerning products and services purchased either physically or online.
Consumers can also sue collectively to demand compensation, albeit only in 13 of the 27 EU member states. So the Commission is pushing hard to extend this right to all European consumers. And it looks like it's going to happen, as the European institutions reached a deal in June that would allow all EU consumers to defend their rights collectively.
So how do public authorities protect consumers? Stay with us.
There are 2 main ways for public authorities to protect consumers: by preventing infringements in the first place and by punishing sellers when they don't respect the law. And EU consumer protection cooperation is crucial to achieve this.
Since 2020, the EU counts a new EU-wide alert system that should allow authorities to spot new threats quicker, and a mutual assistance mechanism and coordinated actions to be able to act together when infringements affect several EU countries at the same time.
National market surveillance authorities also scan the market regularly in search of faulty or dangerous products and are obliged by the EU to ensure that all products placed on their market are safe and can be sold anywhere in the EU.
And from May 2022, Member States will be required to apply similar criteria for the imposition of penalties and harmonised maximum fines. So for widespread infringements that affect consumers in several Member States, traders may face fines of up to 4% of their annual turnover in each affected Member State.
The truth is that consumer protection laws in the EU have been substantially strengthened in the past 2 years, ensuring better market surveillance and giving European consumers more and easier to use tools to complain when they face a problem.
When modernising its consumer protection rules, the EU also took account of digital market developments, such as the rise in online platforms and emerging digital technologies, to ensure that its rules are better fit for the digital age.
But markets are in constant evolution, and when it comes to protecting European consumers, there's still room for improvement. So there's no time to rest.
You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.